This is the University of Florida Video Yearbook for 1988-89. It was a year of transitions on the University of Florida campus as the reins of leadership passed from President Marshall Criser to former Provost Robert Bryan near the close of the spring term. The Criser presidency ended after 5 years of unprecedented accomplishments and new levels of national recognition for the university, with the announcement in December that he would be stepping down.
Being president of one of the largest public universities in this country brings with it an incredible demand on one's time, thought, and energy. I have decided that 5 years is long enough to deny myself of the time, thought, and energy that I now want to spend with my family. In addition, I have professional pursuits that I need an opportunity to properly evaluate. I have always said that this was my penultimate and not my final career.
The Criser years were eventful ones for the university, from the high points of unprecedented academic and athletic success to the problems caused by investigations into the football program. But the troubles of the 1984 football team were turned into trophies on the field, and in 1985, the university won an academic accolade with admittance into the Association of American Universities, signaling acceptance of UF into the ranks of the nation's top academic institutions. In 1987, the major initiative of the Criser presidency was unveiled, the first university-wide major capital fundraising campaign. Students will remember Marshall Criser as a man who seemed genuinely interested in personalizing a big university through programs like the Freshman Phonathon, and just a general willingness to meet and talk with students anytime, any place.
Students are what this is all about. That's why we're all here. And we just have an outstanding group of students at this university. And to have an opportunity to associate with them, to work with them, to have the same goals that they have it's what makes the job worthwhile.
He also wasn't afraid to look a little foolish to get a laugh at Gator Growl, or to let it all hang out at an exciting football game. The Video Yearbook salutes Marshall and Paula Criser for their contributions and loyalty to the University of Florida as the 8th President and First Lady. Stepping into the role of interim president is former provost and 30-year veteran of the academic and administrative leadership at UF, Dr. Robert Bryan. He will serve until the Board of Regents, with the advice of a large committee from both in and outside the university, help select a new president. The middle of the spring semester was dominated by the search for missing UF student Tiffany Sessions. Her father, a prominent South Florida developer, mounted a media blitz and organized a search that included hundreds of fellow students. Still, no trace was found of Tiffany near the Southwest Gainesville apartment complex where she was last seen walking. And no leads have since proven fruitful, so Tiffany Sessions remains missing.
Long live freedom!
Chinese students at UF took up banners and placards late in the spring term to show their support for the struggle by students in China to bring democracy to that communist nation. The memory of Dr. Martin Luther King was honored during a special celebration of his birthday that began on the steps of Tigard Hall. Highlighting the event was the unveiling of a new sign that renames Highway 441 in Alachua County the Martin Luther King Highway. The ceremony was followed by a march down University Avenue by the black community, supported by the black fraternities and sororities of the university and other groups sympathetic to the cause. Less momentous but widely talked about on campus was the new sculpture placed outside the Computer Science and Engineering building titled Alachua. The angular shapes inspired the name Giant Fries and many opinions.
When they first came out, I didn't like them that much, but I guess I'm kind of used to them now.
I don't know what to call them, but I don't like them, and they are just awful.
I like them. I'm impressed. I came and did some night photography here with my girlfriend. It turned out fabulous. Fabulous.
I don't like them.
Another waste of the school's money.
They're very ugly. Take them away.
I didn't like them. They block the view of the tower. I mean, before you used to have a clear view when you walk through these buildings of the tower.
Interim President Robert Bryan expressed his dislike of the work and was rewarded with frequent ribbing and this scale model, which sits in his office.
This is confrontational arts. This is art that seeks to attract attention to itself. It does not seek to enhance the quality of life, I think, around it. So I regard it as an abomination where it is. Put it somewhere else, and it might be very nice.
Mural painter Jim Evangelist abandoned his attempts to paint over the 34th Street graffiti wall and contented himself with other projects, like this scene on the side of the bike route at 13th and University. Former UF President Robert Marston was the featured guest at a ceremony naming the new Central Science Library in his honor. The Marston Library, which is adjacent to the Computer Science and Engineering building, is a state-of-the-art facility that consolidates much of the science reading and reference material that had been scattered across campus. Also attending the ceremony, UF alumnus and Nobel Prize winner Marshall Nirenberg. For the second year in a row, fire struck on campus. In the fall semester, this Jennings Hall dorm room was gutted by flames caused by a faulty electrical appliance. No injuries were reported, but many students were dislocated while the cleanup operations took place. This year, ground was broken for a complex of buildings to include a renovated Peabody Hall that will house most of the student services functions on campus under one roof. Completion scheduled for early 1991. The quality of students at UF continues to improve. Florida now ranks 4th among public universities in merit scholar enrollment, but Bryan Singer says they still find time for fun.
As always, it was a familiar sight, the inside of a textbook. But Florida students, as usual, found ways not to worry and to be happy.
Don't worry, be happy.
I'm not worried. I'm going to be a millionaire.
Yes, many Gators do become millionaires, but they always start out as students. And while many students were themselves, there were those that followed the trends, like bicycle pants, tie-dyed shirts, beach and earth cruiser bicycles, high-top sneakers, untied that is, and even video games. Yes, they still played video games.
Be happy.
Well, while playing in the mud might be fun, most Gators were found at 3 for 1 at Chelsea Street Pub, quarter night at CJ's, and on Thursday night dancing at either MFP or Central City. But we can't forget those that were found nightly in the library. But if you were on the 4th floor of CSE, did you really get anything done?
No, not really. If you go to CSE, 4th floor is basically the social floor.
Don't worry, be a Gator.
And to be a true Gator, you always had to find time for the beach, especially during spring break.
Daytona and then Lauderdale. Alvarado.
The Keys.
Daytona. Cancun.
And Daytona Beach. I'm going on a cruise off of the Florida Keys.
Off the Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it.
Don't worry, there's always a beach.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? You can take it fast and then we'll take it slow.
So away from the books and exams, there was the traditional don't worry, be happy attitude of a Florida student.
University leaders, friends, and alumni continued to push the Capital fundraising campaign toward its $250 million goal. The kickoff dinner in the fall was emceed by alumnus and ABC anchorman Forrest Sawyer. A generous response from the faithful brought the total to more than $200 million by year's end, keyed by the late spring announcement of a $10 million gift from citrus producer and cattleman Ben Hill Griffin. As a gesture of thanks, the university and the Florida legislature named the football stadium at Florida Field in his honor. The winds of politics blew strong across campus in the fall term as Florida Blue Key presented the first statewide televised debate involving both the Republican and Democratic candidates for the U.S. Senate. The program was hailed as a success, even though it was bypassed by Republican frontrunner Connie Mack, who later would defeat Ocala Congressman Buddy McKay for the seat. The man who created the opening by stepping aside after 3 terms in the Senate, Lawton Chiles, returned to his alma mater to fill a chaired professorship in political science and lecture budding politicians on the ways and means of government.
You know, I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's going to be fun. They're nervous about today. I'm a little nervous myself, you know, try to keep ahead of them, you know, and make it where it will be interesting.
This year, a university faculty member received a significant first in the history of UF. Engineering professor Daniel Drucker was awarded the National Medal of Science by President Ronald Reagan in a White House ceremony. Drucker's subsequent appointment to the National Science Foundation also gave the university a powerful voice in the appropriation of federal research grants. Veteran UF scientists Glenn Chessow and John Wethington joined the national search and controversy over claims that nuclear fusion could be produced in a laboratory test tube at room temperature. Like many of their colleagues around the country, the pair found their results interesting but inconclusive. For 60 years, WRUF radio has played a key role in the education and entertainment of the campus community. To honor distinguished former ruffians, a Hall of Fame induction was decreed for such notable broadcasters as baseball legend Red Barber, executives Charles Murdoch and Alvin Flanagan, and the ageless Otis Boggs, whose long and loyal service to the university is the subject of this video yearbook close-up. The more some things change on the UF campus, the more others remain the same. Otis Boggs still goes to work each morning at WRUF. That was true in 1939, and it's still true today.
Are they? Mm-hmm. I wonder if Archer Red's going to be part of that.
Oh, I'm sure she is.
The congenial former voice of the Gator says he came to the university in 1937 to study chemistry, but he got sidetracked by the new and exciting world of broadcasting.
And the nice thing about WRUF in those days, you had a chance to write, you had a chance to produce shows, and also to announce. And you learned a little bit about the administrative side of it. And actually, you found out which niche you might fit into the best. And so finally I said, well, sports is going to be it for me, because no two games are alike. They're all different. Some are dull and some are exciting. So I think I like sports, and that's what I concentrated on.
Otis's first game as the Gators announcer was hardly a thriller. This night in 1940, Florida was trounced by a powerful Mississippi State team. Time has taken some of the sting out of those defeats, but it hasn't dimmed the memory of the big wins.
I think back to some of the great victories. I think when Graves beat his old buddy Bobby Dodd at the Florida Field 18-17 on the famous go for two extra point play. That was one of the most fantastic games I've ever seen from the standpoint of drama and tenseness.
Plays, draws in the defense, then pitches at the last minute to John Macbeth, who's got it for the conversion that's good for 2 points.
These days, Otis keeps busy combining with Florida Field PA announcer Jim Finch to host a popular morning music, talk, and trivia show on Radio 85. He still follows his beloved Gators through the ups and downs of each football season. And he keeps in touch with the many friends he's made over the years. In fact, Otis says it's the friends that have made it all worthwhile.
I really never made a great deal of money doing play-by-play football, but I made more friends than any one human being on this earth could, I think, just meeting the Gator fans all over the state, all over the country for that matter. I could never have made that many friends doing something else, I don't believe.
And now, with play-by-play for this annual classic, here is Otis Boggs.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. For FSU, the deep man down the middle will be there.
Homecoming. It's another yearly tradition at UF. When the trees burst forth blooms of toilet paper. When manual labor suddenly becomes fashionable. When running out for a six-pack looks like this. When future lawyers prove they can dance and politicians show they can laugh. Florida's new lottery provided the theme for this year's homecoming parade. But it was the Auburn Tiger that served as the nemesis for the float designers. The weather was good, and the irrepressible Mr. Two-Bits couldn't resist leading a cheer. Florida Blue Key invited a few close friends for their annual banquet, including featured speaker, U.S. Attorney General Richard Thornburg. And the 63rd annual Gator Growl Pep Rally kept up the tradition that bigger is better, this year using 2 comedians, 4 skydivers, 6 bawdy skits, and about 8 zillion fireworks. This year the spotlight shone on Missy Madola, who was crowned homecoming queen for a year. we saw Albert and Alberta at home, dreaming of hitting the lotto jackpot. And President Criser revealed himself to be not Emmett Smith.
Hey, don't worry. Be happy. It's homecoming.
Jerry Seinfeld skewered the crowd with a New Yorker's impression of Miami Beach drivers.
They drive slow, they sit low. This is the motto of Florida. The state flag should be a steering wheel with a hat and 2 knuckles on it.
And Stephen Wright deadpanned his brand of off-center humor.
A friend of mine has a car phone. He has an answering machine on his car phone. The message is, "Hi, I'm home right now." So I can't come to the phone. But if you leave a name and number, I'll call you when I'm out.
To the crowd, it's a couple of hours of fun on a Friday night. But to the student producers, it's months of hard work. This year, Video Yearbook takes you behind the scenes of Gator Growl.
I get amused when people in August or September say, "Hey, Joe, have you started working on Growl yet?" Them not knowing that the process has been going on for 7 months already.
Yeah, I think after 8 months of work, when you sit in that stadium the night of the show and you have 70,000 people cheering and yelling, you feel that's a product that you put on the field. That was something that you kind of gave the students and the alumni. And that feeling it hasn't been matched in any other thing I've ever done here at the University of Florida. Opening was fine on videos. I think that's what killed a lot of people. I think people thought it was going to come up on the screen and we'd get ready at that point. And
I'm out here on the field.
So hopefully we'll have Albert ready for the second opening. It's going to be a long night already.
They're already talking to student rights people right now on the clear column.
I said, you know, anything that we had problems with was basically the horses. Was a problem. There's always a feeling, and it's always talked about before, that Thursday night's going to be a long night because we always say we're going to do it until we get it right.
There were some stressful moments, but I feel like my staff and I just kind of had the realization that any problem can be dealt with. Once we're there the night of the show, I'm directly responsible for almost 800 people.
We have the director's table, which we sit at, usually is the show director, the technical director, and the video director. The show director is in charge of talking to his actors and actresses, the field managers, which coordinate all the activities on the field. And you have your technical director, which is in charge of the laser, the lighting, the sound. And then you have the video director, who's in charge of working with the video people, what shots he wants.
I would say the best Growl to date, but that's a little biased on my part.
Each year, Growl has gotten progressively better and a little bit more enjoyable. So that kind of makes it harder for the following or for the future Growl, is that you have to give the audience something more spectacular and more enjoyable.
Now the burden is on Tom Manarino. He's the producer of next year's Gator Growl. Now we go from behind the scenes at Gator Growl to behind the scenes of the latest Steve Martin movie, Parenthood. The university provided the backdrop for several key shots. Comedian Steve Martin was the main attraction and star performer in the role of a father trying to cope with a homicidal son. About 300 students, UF employees, and local residents made up the extras, and they spent 2 long and exhausting days dodging fake explosions and special effects bullets. Director Ron Howard oversaw the controlled chaos and seemed satisfied with the results, and the crowd of onlookers that gathered each day also got their money's worth. University administrators were just relieved that the shooting fell during spring break and that all the damage seemingly done to facilities and grounds was just movie magic. Although he was unavailable as a candidate for president, the Democratic governor of New York, Mario Cuomo, was available early in the spring term to fill the role of guest speaker at the request of UF student government. The governor's reputation as a stirring speaker was upheld, and the crowd was attentive to his call for high ideals and unselfish action by the new generation. It was a bigger, noisier crowd in the O'Connell Center when controversial talk show host Morton Downey Jr. came calling a few weeks later. The topic, the perception of unfair treatment by administrators of fraternities and sororities over enforcement of the 21-year-old minimum drinking age. The crowd got an earful of Downey's brand of off-color commentary and anti-establishment rhetoric, and responded in kind when given a chance at the microphone.
They're not following the laws of the state, and I personally don't agree with the law.
The debate wouldn't have won a point in speech class, but the crowd seemed to feel that they got what they came for. Later in the spring, the Greeks got back to what they do best, having fun and raising money during the annual Greek Week charity events. Detroit doesn't have to worry about a thing from the makers of these vehicles as competitors down the road, but the thrill of victory, or maybe it was just the excitement of finishing in one piece, was almost too much to bear. Finishing in one piece was the goal of most of those involved in the marathon dance contest as well. After a few hours, all the dances started looking the same, and most people couldn't even remember who they were dancing with. For those of a more passive nature, the idea of this marathon is to see how long you can stay in a hot tub without succumbing to fatal skin wrinkling. And how about this for turning the tables? Sorority girls ogling the guys and outbidding one another for the right to go out with the hunk of the week. Well, anything goes during Greek Week. There was a whiff of the 60s in the air in May as UF students joined a national environmental awareness campaign fueled by outrage over the Alaskan oil spill and the continued lowering of air quality in Florida.
Welcome to a poison paradise. This is where everybody's supposed to come because it's so nice and clean, and it's not really that way.
The Save the Future rally, sponsored by Rock 104, sought to mobilize students to write letters and postcards to legislators seeking action on environmental issues. In the campus environment, there is a place of quiet beauty and natural serenity. Lake Alice is the only wildlife refuge inside a city limit in Florida. It's a place where the university and the environment meet face to face. Now here's Steve Babick with a recap of the year in sports.
The Florida basketball team captured its first ever SEC regular season basketball championship in 55 years of competition. Over 5,000 ecstatic Gator fans mobbed the airport to welcome the team home from their victory over LSU and the SEC championship. A week later, the scene was Florida-filled, where a pep rally welcomed the newly crowned SEC champs. The Gator Hoopsters did it with 11 SEC wins in a row, including the now famous Florida versus Vandy tennis ball classic, related to a preseason incident involving all-SEC center Dwayne Shintzes. Here's David Steele's call from Nashville.
1 second left. Oh, what a tough heartbreak. Ronaldo Garcia was wide open. And now we've got tennis balls being thrown down, and there's a technical foul called by John Crocker. All right. Can you believe this? What a twist of fate. Tennis balls screaming from the stands with 1 second on the clock. The game is not over, and a technical foul is called against Vanderbilt. All right, here he is at the line. Big Dwayne Shintzes cuts it loose. It is good. 72-71. Dwayne Shintzes toes the stripe to try and tie the game with 1 tick on the clock. He takes a deep breath. The shot is up. The shot is good. We're tied at 72. 1 second left. The Gators will put it inbounds at midcourt. Big victory for Florida tonight at Nashville on Vanderbilt's home floor. It will be forever known, I'm sure, as the tennis ball game. 81-78 in overtime, game, set, and match to the Florida Gators.
The Gators' first ever basketball title was a fitting climax for the career of play-by-play announcer David Steele, who resigned to take a job with the new NBA franchise in Orlando. Since taking over from Otis Boggs in 1982, Steele's stint as voice of the Gators spawned some of the highest and lowest moments in Florida sports history. His personal favorite, the second-half comeback against Auburn in 1986.
So you had a gimpy-leg quarterback and a one-arm receiver against an undefeated team that was ranked 4th or 5th in the country, and they were behind 17-0, and in the second half. And to come back and win that game with those two key players playing the major role, that was just one of the more incredible stories, I think, in sports that could be imaginable.
It's 17-16, and you know what the call has got to be. Florida going to go for 2. Florida down by 1 point. Bell back to throw, looking for 2 points, steps up in the pocket, can't find anybody, he's open, he'll run, he scores! This place is a mob scene. Unbelievable. Florida goes on top 18-17, and Kerwin Bell ran the ball in on a gimpy left knee.
Taking over for Steele as voice of the Gators is Mick Hubert from Dayton, Ohio, who's looking forward to making some great memories of his own. Welcome aboard, Mick. The 1988 Florida football season was a roller coaster ride of emotions for Gator fans everywhere. By early October, the Gators were 5-0 and ranked 12th in the nation after shutting down Tommy Hodson and the LSU Tigers. Once again, there was talk of a national championship. But that ended abruptly the following Saturday when Charlie Bailey's Memphis State Tigers came to Florida Field and upset the highly favored Gators. Florida struggled the remainder of the season, winning only one other conference game at Kentucky. That was enough to land the Gators a place in the All-American Bowl against the University of Illinois. Emmitt Smith provided his brand of fireworks, while a ferocious Gator defense shut down the Fighting Illini attack. The Gators were victorious, winning 14-10. Postseason All-American honors went to free safety Louis Oliver, defensive tackle Trace Armstrong, and offensive tackle David Williams. All were first-round NFL draft picks this year. The Lady Gators won their second straight all-sports trophy in 1989 with first-place SEC finishes in gymnastics and swimming. Senior gymnast Melissa Miller capped a brilliant career with a fourth-place all-around finish at the NCAA Championships held in Georgia. Lady Gators swimmers Julie Gorman, Chrissy Linehan, and Stephanie Zunick won individual national titles and, along with other Gator swimmers, captured a third-place team finish at the NCAA Finals. Joe Arnold's Fighting Gator baseball team started off with 11 wins in a row, finishing with a season high of 40 victories and hosting both the SEC and NCAA regional tournaments here in Gainesville. The men's and women's track teams are fast becoming a force on the national scene. The men's team, anchored by Olympic sprinter Dennis Mitchell, finished third in the NCAA Finals. The women's team finished a strong second in the SECs to national champ LSU. The Gator men's golf team finished 11th at the national championships after stunning victories in both the SEC and the NCAA regional tournament. In May of '89, Florida hosted its first ever NCAA Women's Tennis Championship. Coach Andy Brandy's inspired Lady Gator tennis team played well in the NCAA semifinals, but lost a tough match to UCLA. Governor Bob Martinez was on hand to open the ceremonies by naming the new beautiful tennis facility after benefactor and longtime Gator booster Scott Linder of Lakeland. All in all, it was a banner year for the Gators. UF finished first in the combined SEC men's and women's sports standings. Congratulations, Gators, for being number one in the SEC.
No matter how unique each school year, it ends the same way, with commencement. Each class adds its own twist to the ritual, and the mortarboard decorations seem to get more elaborate every year. But the promise and the challenges awaiting the graduates remains a constant theme.
I leave you this morning with these beliefs and a final challenge. A challenge to include in your definition of success service to others, to make a commitment to voluntary community service. As a congressman, I can tell you your country needs you. The time is now for you to make this commitment, graduates. You are a new and exciting generation. Within you is the ability to become beacons for change and promise. Go forth, be prosperous, happy, and fulfillers of all the needs of your community by serving others. Thank you, and God bless you.
This has been the University of Florida Video Yearbook for 1988-89.